What is it really like to make money as a blogger? What's it like to make a living that way? That's what we're going to be talking about here because I've been doing this for about 20 years now and I've got a good inside scoop on what it's really like, what the day to day actually looks like. So let's get started. Hey there, I'm David Risley, and I'm the founder of blogmarketingacademy.com, which is where you're probably watching this right now. You could be over on YouTube, in which case, just go over to blogmarketingacademy.com and you can check out the site. So, long story short, I have been doing this. I've been making my living online for over 20 years now, and I guess one could say that I am a blogger. Now, so I'm going to talk to that a little bit because a lot of people have these dreams of making their money as a blogger. A lot of people might end up on a site like mine because they're looking to potentially do that. And I want to talk a little bit about what that is really like because it's probably a little different than what a lot of people are thinking about in a few different ways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer just a few very common questions that might come up, and I'll let you know what the answers to those things are based on my own experience. The first one is going to be, what does my average day look like? Okay, so my average day is really not all that exciting, to be honest with you. I'm usually up by like 6:30 to 7 in the morning. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I go to the gym. Like right now, as of this recording, we're kind of in the middle of the whole coronavirus thing, so I'm not going to the gym right now, but typically I'm going 3 times a week. And then, have coffee. A lot of times I skip breakfast, but that's just by choice. And then I'm usually in the office between 8:30 and 9. Okay, that's roughly where it is. Now my office is a home office, so where you see me right now, this is actually at my house, and this is where I work full time. I do not have an external office. I used to many years ago, and then realized I was just wasting money on rent, and so I decided to just move it back here, and I enjoy it. I mean, my commute is literally to walk down the hallway. I don't really even have to get dressed, although I'm usually wearing a t-shirt and shorts, so it's pretty cool in that regard. So that's what I do. Now, if sometimes my average day typically starts between 8:30 and 9, and then, typically I'll be working until around 6 p.m. And so you could say that I've got a normal full-time work day. Now, keep in mind that during that day, I can pretty much choose how I want to do it, okay? I'm choosing what I spend my time on during that day, which we'll get more into that in a minute. But the other thing is that I can take my lunch when I feel like. If I want to have a late breakfast, it's cool. If my lunch is a little longer than most because I want to do something, like maybe go out someplace or watch something on Netflix, I can do that if I want. Now, it's really important when you're self-employed not to let yourself get into those things and just lose track of time or get super lazy and just binge watch something, because nobody's going to be there to tell you to stop. You have to have that discipline on your own. So the other thing too is that sometimes I just don't feel like working in my office. So my main computer over here is actually a laptop, and so I can just unplug my external monitors and everything from it, and I can go outside. I can go on our back porch. Sometimes I like to have a cigar, and I'll do that while I'm working, and so it's cool. But typically speaking, unless there's other things going on, I am working a pretty good solid 8-hour day most days. And then my weekends are kind of whatever the hell I want to do. I'm usually not in the office over the weekend. Sometimes I am, but obviously I do work. This is a full-time job, and it's not something where I am screwing around or sitting on the beach with a pina colada or spending the whole of my life out in my RV. I mean, it's nice that I can pop in the RV and go somewhere if I want. But the thing is, even though I've got the freedom to do it, I'm generally not doing it all the time because I've got responsibilities, and that's life. That's life when you actually have a business to run. So the next question is probably going to be, okay, that's what my average day looks like in terms of the schedule. Now, what am I actually doing during that day? If I'm sitting in my office for roughly 8 hours on an average day. What am I doing? All right, so this is going to come down to a fundamental concept, and it's one that I repeat many, many times around this site, and that is that blogging does not actually make any money. A business does. And so there's a little bit of a misnomer even in the title of this video and in the title of this post, and that is that I truly do not look at it as I am making my money as a blogger. I don't self-identify as a blogger. I happen to have a blog, but I don't make my money writing blog posts for this blog. And that's because this is not the business. This is a marketing medium for the business. And so I probably only spend about 20% of my time actually creating content for this blog. Typically, I set aside Mondays, and Mondays is sort of my content day. I'll sit down and I'll write the next blog post if it's not already written. If I've already gotten an advance on that, then I'll be working on the one that's going to go out a week or two after that. So I try to keep on schedule. But typically, Mondays is the day that I'm creating content for the public side of the Blog Marketing Academy. The rest of the time, I'm doing all the other stuff that actually runs this business. I'm answering people's questions, doing emails. I am writing email campaigns. I'm creating training content to go inside the lab. I'm prepping up workshops. Sometimes I'm handling technical issues with regard to the way the lab works or the Blog Marketing Academy public site. I wear a lot of different hats as a business owner, and so I have to put those hats on. But really only about 20% of it is actually blogger. The rest of it is other stuff. Now, I do create a lot of content. It's just that you guys don't see a lot of it because the rest of it goes inside the lab. But that's where a lot of my time goes. My money is made by serving bloggers who want to grow their blogs and people who want to start a online business that's primarily driven by content marketing. Okay. And my job is to serve people like that, which is hopefully you. And that's how I make my money. Simply writing is not going to do it. I have to actually serve my customers. And I do that by way of training, some consulting. And then, of course, there also is some affiliate commissions that gets made in my line of work because I do talk about various tools. But those are the things that actually generate the money, not really blogging for this site. And so that's where a lot of my time gets spent. Tuesday through Friday is working on all the actual business stuff. Sometimes it's scheduling things out. Sometimes it's planning. Sometimes it's getting into into Drip, which is my email system, and having to write an email campaign or to put together a marketing campaign for some promotion that I'm looking to run in a week or two. Those are things where that's where the actual income gets made, and that's where I spend most of my time. Okay, everybody wants to know how much money does one make as a blogger? And the truth is, nobody can give you a concrete answer on that because it's all over the board. It's basically like a bell curve where most bloggers are not going to be making very much at all, but then it starts to go up from there. And then you're going to have a few that are making really, really good money. And so it's a very steep bell curve. That's typically the way this stuff goes. And so there's not really a solid answer for how much one can make or how much does a blogger ultimately make. The only way you could add any predictability to that is that if you were blogging as a paid employee blogger for some company, and then you're just getting a paycheck, and that's a whole different thing. In terms of how much money I make, I long since stopped doing income reports, and I did that for very good reason. So I'm not going to get into specifics on that, but I will say that I've been generating a six-figure income for well over 10 years, well over. It's never dropped below that. I'm not on the high end of that. I'm kind of on the low to mid end of that, to be honest with you. But as far as exact figures, I leave that between me and my wife and the IRS, and that's where it should be. But I do fine. I have had downs in terms of income. I've had ups in terms of income. That's just part of life. That's the way it works. But I'm definitely not having a difficult time affording the bills, and allows us to go out and do stuff. So that's kind of the answer to that. This is not going to be one of those things where I'm going to sit here and try to act like some stereotype, or I'm sitting on the beach having a pina colada, or acting like I'm out in my RV constantly, because I'm not. I have a home office. We live here, and that's life. It's life. This is a job. It's work. I get to run the show, but it is work. I have to treat it like that, and I make a decent living doing it. Okay, and that's pretty much the answer to that. All right, so what are some of the biggest challenges? Because this is not all sweetness and light. I'll be honest, I don't think everybody's cut out for what I do. I think, if you're the type of person that you really need somebody breathing down your neck, or you need external threats in order to keep you from falling off the rails, and this is going to be a difficult thing for you because nobody's going to do that for you when you're self-employed. And so for that reason, it's not out for everybody, and you could easily run yourself into the ground trying to do this if you don't have that self-discipline. That's probably one of the biggest challenges, because even as long as I've been doing this, sometimes I'm solid on my self-discipline. Sometimes I get lax, and I'll just don't feel like working, and it does happen. Now, one thing I have learned for myself is that if I really get to that point where, man, I'm just not feeling this, then two things I've learned. One is that I don't force it anymore. I will give myself permission to get up, walk out of this room, and go do something else. Because I have found that if I try to force it, then anything that I produce usually sucks. So why do it? So that's number one. The second thing is that usually if you start to feel that way, that's a system problem. And so as an entrepreneur, you need to look at and do some evaluation on why that is. If you're feeling like, man, I really don't want to be doing this, you need to look at why you feel that way. Maybe it's something you really shouldn't be doing to begin with. Maybe you can reevaluate it and go, why am I even wasting my time? And just don't do it anymore. Sometimes that's the case. Sometimes when you're running a business, you just have to grind. That's part of it as well. And so, but you need to look at it. But in that time where you're like, man, I'm not feeling it right now, I give myself permission to head out and go do something else. And it's okay. I have the freedom to do that, and I'm going to freaking exercise it sometimes. Sometimes when you're working here, it can feel a little bit solo, a little bit lonely. Obviously, I've got my family and stuff like that, but they don't fully understand what it is that I do. And so when it comes to business ideas or things like that, it can be a little bit of a lonely experience unless I'm talking to people that I know online. I used to have a mastermind group here in my local area, but the group sort of disbanded. Some people moved away and stuff like that. And so at least as of this point, I actually don't have that. And so there are times where, when you're self-employed and you're like, you have an idea and you're like, man, is that a stupid idea or not? You would like some third-party feedback. And, I don't have that around unless I go pay somebody to do it. So that's one challenge. But basically it comes down to self-discipline, not letting yourself go off the rails. One of the things that is a pro and a con about what I do is that my time and my money are disconnected. Meaning it's not like an hourly job or a salary job where if I show up and do some stuff and then leave when the clock says to leave, and my paycheck is pretty much guaranteed. When you're self-employed, that's just not the case. My time and my money are disconnected. And so that means that I could be making a whole hell of a lot of money in a small amount of time. It also means that if I'm not executing very smartly, I could be doing a whole hell of a lot of work and I have hardly anything to show for it at the other end. You can do both, and you could do both. Yeah, well, one is easier than the other one, to be honest with you. And so that is a challenge. If you like the predictability and you're one that needs that predictability, you're just not okay with having anything be uncertain for you, then this is going to be a hard experience. It's something you just have to get used to. Being that I've been doing this so long, I embrace it. I'm okay with the uncertainty. I also have personally weathered different economic storms because I've been doing this for so long, and I'm pretty nimble and I kind of know how to get through stuff. So I don't have a lot of self-doubt about my ability to adapt. But every month I make a different amount of money than I did the previous one. It's just the way it is. Sometimes I have a slow month. Sometimes I have a pretty killer month. It's just the way it works, and you got to be okay with that. And so depending on your outlook, that could be considered to be a challenge as well. There's a good chance that if you were watching this video, then you are on the outside looking in. You're pondering doing this, okay? And you're not doing it now. And that's cool. A lot of people are just like you, and that's totally cool. And in fact, my business is pretty much designed to serve people like you and help you spend your time wisely as you're doing this. The big thing about the question of how long does it take to get to the point where you're making a living doing this is that it is the wrong question. And that's because you don't really make your money as a blogger. You know, you got to build a real business. The problem is that a lot of people, they actually do make the mistake of thinking that blogging is what's making the money. And so they spend all their time worrying about the blog and screwing around with their widgets and writing more blog posts. And then they're like, why is money not coming out of this? And that's because it's just not the way it works. Not the way it works at all. And so it's very important that you spend your time building the actual business. You're, instead of writing blog posts all day, you are working on building leads and then selling things to them. Leads and sales. Those are the two most important things. It's pretty much what all businesses are built on, but it's the two things that most bloggers don't think about. And I am here to basically right that ship and put things in the right order. And in fact, everything that I do here at the Blog Marketing Academy is aligned around that, trying to bring my 2 decades of experience and my know-how in terms of teaching as well to help people spend their time smartly, to put their time focused on the smart stuff and not the stupid stuff, because then you will shorten the runway. If you're spending your time on the stupid stuff, then it's going to take you a hell of a lot longer. If you're spending your time focused on the smart stuff, then it's going to go faster. That's just the way this works. So that's why nobody could say how long this is going to take. It really comes down to you and where you choose to spend your time. And it's even more important if you currently have a job and you're trying to make some type of a transition, because you by nature have limited time to work on this stuff, and you don't want to be spending your limited time working on stupid stuff, okay? And by the way, stupid stuff could also be something that's not stupid. It might be smart. It's just that you're doing it at the wrong time. You're doing it in the wrong order. And order matters in this business. You need to be thinking about leads and sales before you worry about the blog. And most people don't do it that way. And so everything that I do here is based around the online business roadmap. When you go into the lab and you look at any of the training that I've got, it's all oriented around the online business roadmap, which is broken down into 5 phases, and then each phase has a number of sections in there that guide you through doing things in the right order. Now, in order to get the actual training, you've got to be a full lab member, of course, but you can actually see the roadmap on the outline. You can download that for nothing. And so on this blog post, just head on over there and you can create a free account, and you will be able to download the online business roadmap and put the PDF on your hard drive and check it out. And it will give you a good sense of the order of things. And then if you want the training that goes along with it, well, we got that inside the lab, and you can join us anytime you want. So just head on over to blogmarketingacademy.com and click the button to grab the online business roadmap and have a look-see. And if you've got any questions, feel free to let me know. But anyway, that is a little bit of commentary on what it's really like to make your living doing this. It's not pina coladas. It's not all vacation time. It's actual work. And some days I probably work harder than most people who have a normal job. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I personally consider myself to be unemployable. I really would never want to go back to being somebody's employee. I haven't had a real job since my days in college, and I don't intend to ever change that. I am fully confident that I could generate an income in any number of ways and be responsible for it myself. And so I'll never do it any other way. My mission here is to help others like you, if you want to do this, to set up an online business and follow in those footsteps, the footsteps that other people have traveled as well, and try to put some order and simplicity into it so that you can possibly do the same thing.